record. All right, so first step, write this on paper. So what am I gonna write on paper? I'm gonna write f of x equals 2x squared minus 1. Okay, paper, new page. And it's usually a good idea to write which assignment you're on. So I'm just gonna make a note. This is prep 3.1, and I think I just got number 7, and it said f of x equals 2x squared, was it plus 1? Check, and a minus 1, okay. And we're not all gonna get exactly the same problem, but they're supposed to be about the same difficulty. So one person shouldn't get one that's dramatically harder than their neighbor. All right, so let's fix my equation. Minus 1. Eraser. All right, so that's my equation right there. And the f of x is the same thing as a y. So instead, I could write y equals 2x squared minus 1. This is what's called function notation. We'll see it more later. And then they asked me to make a, let's see, I think they just asked me to make a table and graph it. Yeah, they didn't even ask me what kind this is. What kind is this anyway? Is it linear, quadratic, or exponential?
Quadratic.
Quadratic, correct. Because of the square right there, it's quadratic. So I'm just gonna make a note to myself in case I need this for the exam. Quadratic because of the second power. All right, so just a nice side note. And then I gotta make the table like before. And this assignment is always picking -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Before I usually hit my calculator, I put it on paper. So my advice was whenever you replace x, put it in parentheses to be safe. It matters most with negative numbers and fractions. So I'm gonna write down this equation, but instead of an x, I'm gonna put a parentheses. And then in the parentheses, I'm gonna drop what they told me to put in. X is -2 this time. And so it's just a good habit to get into. You could just jump straight to your calculator here, or you could do this by hand. In this class, I'm more in favor of calculators. So I'm gonna jump straight to my calculator, but if somebody wants me to see how I would do that by hand, I can show you, just ask. So I'm gonna use my Desmos Scientific, and I'm just gonna type what I saw, 2 times parentheses. This calculator, that's the negative, but some calculators are different. Close parentheses. This one has a square button, and then I can subtract 1. And it's telling me over here the answer is 7. I like to hit enter anyway because I want a new line. So it's telling me the answer is 7 there. Every calculator works a little bit different. You need to learn how to use yours. So pick one, stick with it, be a master of it. If you need tips on it, let me know and we'll go over it together. Okay, so I think on paper, I want to write my answer first. Now, if you can just look at this and do it in your head, that's totally cool for homework, but on a test, write it down and type it into your calculator. So my next one would be 2 parentheses -1 squared minus 1. And so then I go ask my calculator, what's the answer? Just like before, carefully type it. 2 times parentheses -1, close the parentheses, square it, and then subtract 1. Okay. And I wonder, is this editable? Yeah, some of these online calculators are cool because you could just go back in and retype something. Like I can go and get rid of that -1 and put a -3 if I want. And it'll tell me what the answer is on the side. Just kind of nice. My notes, write it down. So take good notes, please. 2 times 0 to the second power minus 1. Well, this one I'm going to try to do in my head. Let's see, 0 squared is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. So I think this is just whatever 0 minus 1 is, which is -1. Next one would be 2 times 1 to the second power minus 1. Well, 1 squared is 1. So this is 2 times 1 minus 1. Order of operations, you do squares, then multiplication. So I got to do 2 times 1 is 2. And then finally, I can subtract 1 and get a 1. So just for fun, I'm going to do a couple of these by hand. 2 to the 2nd power. Order of operations, if you don't remember, is parentheses, exponents. Multiplication or division is next, and then addition or subtraction is next. So that's your step 1, 2, 3 of the order of operations, and then 4. And the multiplication or division, you have to do it left to right, whichever comes first. So 2 squared is 4, and then I have to multiply by 2 and subtract 1. Multiplication has to come next. 2 times 4 is 8, minus 1 is 7. So I have my numbers. So let's highlight them. 7, 1, negative 1, 1, and 7. Usually before I do a computer graph, I try to do it on paper. So on paper, I need to see the x values negative 2 to 2. And let's see, my biggest number here is 7, and my smallest number is negative 1. So I need to make a grid that shows that. So I think this is good practice. I'm going to try and squeeze that in right here. And so let's mark this off. I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, 8. So I don't have to write as much. And then over here, that can be 2, and this can be negative 2. And so then I'm going to plot my points. Negative 2, 7. So negative 2 is x. 7's way up there. Negative 1, 1. So negative 1 would be here, and 1 is here. So that would be there. 0, negative 1. So here's 0, but then drop down 1. 1, 1. X is 1, y is 1. And then 2, 7 would be right there. And so here I'm getting that U-type shape out of this graph. Wish me luck drawing this. Sometimes I'm good on my digital screen, sometimes I'm not. Okay, almost hit it. We'll just make that point bigger. There we go, now it hits. And then the graphing tool requires 2 points. This one is a little bit trickier because for this tool right here, you've got to use the that turning point first. Okay, so let me type my numbers in here. So I had a 7, a 1, a negative 1. So I'm just reading off my notes, a 1 and a 7. And then I just need to pick two points, and this picture is trying to tell me one of the points has to be the turning point. Which of these 5 points was my turning point according to the graph I drew? Anybody? Oh, a voice is whispering in my ear. They say it's this point right here. Yeah, that's correct. That point, that is the point 0, negative 1. So that has to be the point I graph first. Good call. So I come back down here, pick the right tool. 0, negative 1's about there. And then I think I'll go to 1, 1, which should be about there. And I think that's the graph. And again, you can only do 2 points. I know we have a lot of points here, but this says only pick 2, and one of them has to be that turning point. So that should be my graph right there. I could have plotted the point 2, 7 instead, right? So maybe I'll clear it and try again, see if it looks any different. There's my 0, negative 1, and then 2, 7, click, and notice it goes through the point 1, 1 right there, but I can't plot it because I can only pick 2. And I think I can submit. Woo, I got it right. Okay, so again, you need to play with these on your own. Any problem you struggled with or you got help with, get a similar one and try it again. So here I got slightly different numbers. I'm gonna see if I can get it right again. If you got help with it and you don't try it again, chances are you're not gonna remember how to do it later. So please, please, please. Okay, so we're running close to the end of time. Is there any other questions anybody wants to ask?